8 wins.
Under.
It's a tough schedule.
There's way too much Tennessee hype heading into the 2022 season. I really do not understand. Like I get what caused it, because like they were a fun team to watch last year, and the offense was fun, and Hendon Hooker came in, and the whole team changed. This season changed. They scored a whole bunch of points. Blah blah blah. But they still had an awful defense. And I don't know what has changed between last year and this year to mean that this defense is no longer going to be awful. And when you have an awful defense, it's really hard to win 9 games. It's hard to win 8 games. I don't think Tennessee in 2022 is really going to be any different than the Tennessee we saw in 2021. They're going to play fun games. They're going to lose a lot of fun games. They're going to win a lot of fun games. And they're going to end up probably about 7-5.
I'm right on this number. So like, it's not a play for me. I will say, like, I think their offense will continue to roll right along. I mean, they should be really, really good on offense. People are like, oh, they're going to adjust to this stuff. Have they adjusted to what Kendall Browse runs at Arkansas yet? How's that adjustment going? Right? Did the Big 12 actually adjust to what Browse ran at Baylor? Not really. This offense is basically a cheat code to win a lot of games in college football. Now, you may say, hey, when they play a Georgia or Bama, kind of changes. And I agree. But you know what? Everybody else's offense changes when you play those defenses too, for the most part, unless you have just freak athletes. I have these guys tied for 10th in my power rating, and I'm still not betting the over. So that should tell you the difficulty of the schedule here, right? Like, they have a lot of games that they could lose. I think LSU they're actually favored by 4.5 right now in the look aheads in Vegas at the Superbook at the Westgate.
Tigers.
Totally disagree with that. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, they're favored by 4.5 at LSU?
In Baton Rouge. That's why I took LSU. I was like, okay. To the kiosk I go. So, yeah, that was I don't think they should be favored in that game, much less by 4.5. I think this is a pretty damn good team, but it also has real downside risk because they lost some important guys on that defensive line, even though I like their back 7. If they have a guy or two go down, I really don't know if they have difference makers up front that can get them over this number. But if they stay healthy, they could win 9 or 10 games.
At Pitt is a game that I gave to Pitt when I was doing the ACC win totals. And that's looking at Pitt actually having a defense that might be able to cause some problems and show some resistance. You know, they did it a year ago. They're not going to have as much offensive firepower. They can't win that game in the same style that they did last year, I don't think. So I've got them going 3-1 there. I've got them dropping both of the games to LSU. I think at South Carolina is really tricky. And so now we're starting to look at, are you going to go 3-0 at home against Florida, Kentucky, and Missouri? Absolutely something that you're capable of doing. But if you pick up at a loss at Georgia, a loss at South Carolina, now all of a sudden 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there you go. You're 7-5. So I found it easier to find the losses than it is for me to be able to get all the way up to the wins. And so, especially with those 3 road games all in November into the season, if there's any depth issues at all, that's going to be exposed right there. I am on probably push, but 7-5 is definitely something I would think is more likely than 9-3.
I wish I could go back and read some of my tweets from Tennessee fans over the years, because I have had a field day trolling this fan base when they come in with massive expectations and they fall short. I'm on the Vols this year.
Over.
And I'm over. Give me the over. They have the second best quarterback in the SEC. You guys know how I feel about Hendon Hooker. I love what he's got. And here's the other thing too. Like LSU, it's not surprising to me at all they're favored by 4.5. LSU's been back-to-back 500 teams. Like they're still rebuilding. We don't even know who their quarterback is going to be. Is it one of 4 guys right now is what I'm hearing. Florida is a question mark. Like these teams that for the last decade Tennessee has struggled against all have significant question marks. The Pitt game I think is really interesting. And I know last year, so they made the switch to Hooker, but they weren't. They were actually leading when they made the switch to Hooker at quarterback in the game. Mm-hmm. But I think the consistency, knowing who your guy is, Pitt's not exactly going to be a hostile environment to go into. You know, it'll be loud, it'll be good for Pitt, but it's not going to be like going on the road in the SEC. I think they win that game. I got them over. I think if their defense, and Tom, you are 100% right. And there was a big difference in Ole Miss from the year they hired a new defensive coordinator and they got better. But I am trusting the defense to get better, and they can't get any worse.